Grace Point, welcome. Come on in, stand with us. It's Easter, it's time to celebrate. Yeah. I woke up early in the morning just to feel the light of day. I had to open up my window, the shadows out my way. Banana pancakes for my problems, found me jamming old Jack Johnson. Swear I heard these angel calls. Lay outside as heaven falls, as heaven falls, heaven falls down on me, yeah. As heaven falls, as heaven falls. Nothing quite like all this color, couldn't paint a better day. Got good times on the horizon, I can see them on the way. Couple birds came up beside me, had to play up some Bob Marley. Yeah, I heard them angel calls. Lay outside as heaven falls, heaven falls, heaven falls down on me. As heaven falls, as heaven falls, heaven falls down on me, yeah, yeah. Y'all look so good today. Happy Easter from all of us. We're so glad that you're here. I know so many of us have deconstructed a lot about this holiday, but we all still have new outfits on, I see. We're still looking good in our Easter best. We want you to know that no matter who you are, who you love, how you exist in this world, you are safe, you are welcome, you are loved just as you are. You're welcomed here. You're celebrated here. You are safe. We love you so much for being with us. We want you to join in us and sing these songs It's pretty easy, Heaven Falls. We're going to do a couple more songs throughout the service, but we'd love for you to sing with us. Come on, here we go. As heaven falls, as heaven falls, heaven falls down on me. Yes, heaven falls, as heaven falls, heaven falls down on me. Let's do it again. As heaven falls, as heaven falls, heaven falls down on me. One more time. As heaven falls, as heaven falls, heaven falls down on me. That's awesome. Y'all sound great. You look great. We're glad you're here. What we'd love for you to do is take a couple minutes and meet and greet the people beside you. If you've not met somebody, shake a hand, hug a neck, whatever you're comfortable with. We'll be back in a couple minutes. We love you.
Good morning. Should we try that again? Good morning. Happy Easter. My name is Emily Wire, and my pronouns are she, her. I am the Director of Operations and Communications here at Grace Point, and we're just so excited that you're here. Can we also give the online community a hand as well? So I just have one announcement, and that is if you take out your phone and scan the QR code that's on your tables and chairs and up on the screen, it's going to give you a link tree of everything that we've got going on. I will direct you just to the connection card. If you're new here, or even if you've gone here for 2 years and you've never filled it out, go ahead and fill out the connection card so we have you in our database. And then also look at the weekly announcements button for a list form of everything that we've got going on. So Grace Point's goal is to create a safe, affirming, and transformative community. We have some very exciting things coming up this year, which you're just about to hear. And to those who already financially support us, thank you very much. You can do so by texting any dollar amount to 84321. You can go to gracepoint.net/give. You can scan the QR code on the screen, or you can Venmo us at GracePointTN. Just remember that Grace Point has an E on the end. Josh?
Hi. Thank you. Good morning, Grace Point. Emily Wire, everybody. So, we have been teasing the last couple of weeks. We have a big announcement today. Are you ready for it? Yes. All right. I was laying in bed last night trying to go to sleep, like a kid before Christmas, except it's Easter. And I was thinking, how lame would it be if the announcement was like, we just saved a bunch of money on our car insurance, and we're just glad to share the news with you that it's not that. So I started as lead pastor at Grace Point 4 years ago on Easter Sunday. And at that, did somebody just go, yeah? It's been a wild 4 years. We sure didn't expect the last 4 years to go the way they have with COVID and with shutdowns. And one of the things that happened, we were meeting at a venue over on Charlotte. And during the COVID, before that, we had been at a venue, or we'd shared space with Unity of Nashville and Brentwood. Before that, we had a campus in Franklin. When COVID hit, we lost our location over on Charlotte. And of course, for the first year or so, it really didn't matter. We were online only. But what happened is we realized about April of 2021 that we needed to find a spot because we were going to begin to relaunch in-person gatherings again. And I don't know if you're aware of what the market is like in Nashville, but that was, it seemed insurmountable. We were looking and looking. We went on tours. We met with contractors. Our team was just exhausted and just kept turning up nothing that would work. And during that process, somehow Third and Lindsley just fell into our lap. And before I share our news with you, I just want to say how grateful we are for Ron and all the folks here at Third and Lindsley who gave us a home when we would not have had a home over the last several years. They've been amazing. But even with that, with both of the last spaces we've had, there was really not an adequate space for kids and students. Kids are just kind of have been all together, and our team back there has done an amazing job just kind of keeping it all going. But it's not been what we envision our kids ministry or student ministry would look like. And so I am thrilled to share some news with you, and that is that we have found a brand new home that will have permanent space for Grace Point moving forward. Y'all, this has been, and it's one of those other things that just fell in our lap. We started conversations. A member of our LC has an office at this place. It's a sort of an office share place. There's a coffee shop, a pizza place, and some other businesses. And so we started the conversation with maybe we should just try to find an office so people have someplace to park their car and meet. And so we started looking at this one room, which expanded to a suite of offices that could, if you could possibly ever meet there, it could be a children's ministry sort of space and wing, multiple classrooms. And then we added another room, and now we have this space. There's an art gallery, which is where it's a shared space, which is where Sunday morning gatherings will happen. But we'll have permanent space for youth, permanent space for kids. There'll be space for midweek meetings, for book studies, for people just to get together. The place is open 24/7. So chances are, like right now, if you've met with me in the last month, you've been there. You just didn't know it because I wasn't allowed to tell you. But we often meet for lunch there. It's the kind of place where we can say, hey, on random Wednesday from 11 to 2, some of us are going to be hanging out in the common area. Why don't you come have lunch and hang out? Because what we have longed for is something for our students, something for our kids, and something for our community so that we're not just a group of people who, with our best efforts, show up at the same place or log on to the same place on a Sunday morning, but we actually can really begin to know one another and build so we want our community to grow, not just this, we want our community to grow like this. And this space gives us the best opportunity Grace Point has had in 7 years to actually see that come about. It is kind of a dream come true, and I can't wait for you all to see it, which brings me to the next part. April 30th, save the date. In 3 weeks, after our Sunday morning gathering here, we will have, in the afternoon, an open house over at the new place, which is on Lindell Avenue, just off Wedgwood. If you take the Wedgwood exit, you are almost there. It is right next to the interstate, especially if you're going north. It is right next to the interstate. So we'll still be setting up on Sunday mornings to do our Sunday morning gatherings, but we'll have kids space that just exists. And we'll have classroom space that just exists. And it really is incredible. Our first Sunday gathering in the new space is going to be May 7th. So in 4 weeks, we will be at the new space, and we will be doing everything over there at the new space. Y'all, and I just want to say a couple things before I be quiet. This would not have been possible if it hadn't been for Steve Wire. Where's Steve at? I cannot tell you the amount of time he has spent, what he's negotiated. I cannot tell you what Steve has done over the last month and what he's doing now to make sure that this space is ready for us. But we are so grateful for you, Steve. Thank you for your leadership on that and for doing such a great job. I'll also say this we're biting off more as a community so that we can care for our community better. And so that'll lead to challenges. Like we'll need to give as a community to make this space sustainable for us. And I know we're going to do it because it gives us an opportunity to grow in a way. As grateful as I am for this space, I think we've hit our limit here on what we can do as a community. A couple things about the new space. It's really bright, which is kind of nice. Maybe we'll eventually know what each other actually looks like if you're in the room. And it really is going to give us an opportunity to, not only on Sunday mornings, but throughout the rest of the week, to know one another. So April 30th, open house. May 7th, our first gathering in our new home. I cannot wait for you to see it. I can't wait for you to be in the space. This is a game changer, future moment for Grace Point. And I'm so excited to be on this journey with you all. Are you all excited? Yeah. All right.
This next song that we're doing is going to sound really familiar. And I thought about it last service and said something, and I thought I'd say it again. That this journey of deconstruction, we're all in different points, right? Where we are with our faith and things that we still hold on to, things that we're letting go of. And I just want to remind you, especially with songs like these, that you get to make it true for you. And so this song is called Ain't No Grave. And I just want to give you permission that whatever grave you've been put into by society, religious systems, friend groups, unloving family members, you get to walk out of that grave. So I just wanted to give you that meaning. Oh, shame is a prison as cruel as a grave. Shame is a robber, and it's come to take my name. Oh, love is my redeemer, lifting me from the ground. Love is the power where my freedom song is found. Whoa.
Will you stand with us as you're able?
Oh, fear is a liar with a smooth and velvet tongue. Fear is a tyrant, it's always telling me to run. Oh, love is a resurrection, and love is a trumpet sound. Love is the way I'm gonna take my giants down. There ain't no grave. walk into. Come on, sing it out.
If he walked out of the grave, I'm walking too. If he walked out of the grave, I'm walking too.
Following Jesus.
If he walked out of the grave, I'm walking too. If he walked out of the grave, I'm walking too. Oh, if he walked out of the grave, I'm walking too. If he walked out of the grave, I'm walking too. Oh, if he walked out of the grave, I'm walking too. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. When I hear that trumpet sound, I'm gonna rise up on every bound. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. There ain't no grave gonna hold this body down.
Yeah. Good. Good, yeah. It's good. You may be seated. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, everybody, can we thank our band and our tech team who are making this happen? And there were volunteers who got here way earlier than normal today to make this happen. Can we thank our volunteer crew as well? You know, there's a certain calmness or a certain even joy when you come to the point where you realize that it is possible to be a Christian and to celebrate what Easter means for Christians without demeaning, devaluing, and dismissing other religious traditions. That today is a significant day for us, just like our Muslim and Jewish friends are experiencing some of their most significant days during the same season. And often what happens is Christians put on this posture of our guy's better than y'all's guys who don't exist or something like that. And the reality is that doesn't help the world. And so it's possible for us to celebrate today and what it means for us, and to also celebrate our Muslim and Jewish siblings and what they're experiencing and how significant and beautiful and meaningful it is for them as well. And there's a certain beauty of being able to get to that place where you don't feel the need to go around, my dad's bigger than your, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a certain joy and freedom that comes to that. So today, if you didn't know, is Easter. You're maybe wondering what's happening here. It's Easter. It is the biggest day on the Christian calendar. Nobody tell Christmas, it'll get its feelings hurt. But the reality is Easter is the biggest day on the Christian calendar. And it's also one that so many of us who have gone through faith change and faith shift, it's one we really struggle with. What do we do with Easter? What does Easter mean now? How do we, as our faith has grown and changed and we've let go of so much, do we still hang on to Easter? Is there still room for Easter? Is it still something we need to embrace? I think one of the ways we've approached Easter is kind of like we've approached Christmas, and that is we've tried to take all the accounts that are in the Bible and harmonize them. So how many of you have ever been to a Christmas pageant, and at the Christmas pageant you get an angel appearing to Joseph and Mary, you get a journey to Bethlehem, and the wise men and shepherds are tripping each over to get to the baby first? Anybody had that experience? When in reality, if you actually do the work, you can see, oh no, these are different stories. Matthew has a story and it's different, and Luke has a story and it's different, and that's okay. They're doing different things. And when we try to mash them up together, it can be, a great way to have more people in the Christmas pageant, but what we end up doing accidentally is silencing the message and meaning of each story because they're trying to do something. I think we do that with Easter as well. I think we have this Easter narrative in our head that we have constructed and has been displayed for us through passion plays for thousands of years, and that now maybe we miss the individual notes each author is playing. So I thought we should begin today with kind of a fun, what I'm calling the Easter Stories Bible Fun Trivia Fun Quiz, because this sort of thing is a lot of fun for me, and so I hope it's going to be a lot of fun for you too. Get ready. Who was the first to write about Jesus' resurrection in the New Testament? Paul. That's right. At 9 o'clock, we had some Matthew, Mark, and it's actually Paul. The first gospel, Mark, was written around the year 70. Paul wrote in the 50s, late 40s, 50s, early 60s. So yeah. Which gospel's Easter story includes the ninjas? Paul. Found this at the store. The Easter Ninja Wall Crawlers. I just wonder, I would love to have been in the boardroom where they're like, we need a new Easter toy for people to throw their money away on. And this is the capitalist board meeting, by the way. We need something. What do we have? What can we do that would, and somebody's like, well, Christmas has the 3 wise men. Easter needs the 3 ninjas that somehow are involved in helping Jesus escape the tomb, right? So we have the 3 ninjas. That is in the non-canonical gospel of... and which gospel's Easter story includes the Emmaus Road story? You get this right, you get a pack of Easter ninjas. Anybody know the Emmaus Road story where Jesus kind of walks up and joins some people incognito? Anybody know? Luke, that's right. Which gospel's Easter story has an empty tomb but no appearance of Jesus? Like the tomb's empty, but Jesus is nowhere to be found. Mark, yes. What's fascinating, at the end of Mark, the women come to the tomb on Easter morning. There's a young man, not an angel, but a young man who sort of tells them Jesus has been raised up, and he'll meet his disciples in Galilee. And the women walk away from the tomb afraid and say nothing to no one. And it so disturbed some early scribes that they added extra endings to the Gospel of Mark where Jesus shows up and he tells people to drink poison and handle snakes. My people took that literally back in Appalachia. And it's all additional stuff. It seems like the gospel probably ended in verse 8 with the women walking away from the tomb saying nothing to no one. And very early on, it's like we can't live with the ambiguity. We need certainty. And so we added extra endings. Next, which gospel's Easter story has Jesus appearing to his disciples on a mountain? The ninja gospel. Gospel according to the ninjas. This would be Matthew. Jesus meets them on a mountain and sends them out into the world to be an inclusive community. And I think last, which gospel's Easter story has a race to the empty tomb? John. And it's the most petty. It's like the writer of John's like, we're going to race to the tomb, and I want everybody to know for all eternity, I won. Right? And then I think one more. Which gospel's Easter story centers women as the ones to discover the empty tomb? D, all of the above. Which is interesting that the Jesus movement became patriarchal so quickly. And yet in the beginning, it was radically grounded. Women were the ones to discover the empty tomb. Women were the first ones to preach the Easter message. And I think it's interesting to listen to preachers who are complementarian or patriarchal try to deal with that detail on Easter. It's fun to watch them build a box around themselves and not know how to get out of it. Because the women were the first evangelists on the first Easter. So that's our fun trivia quiz. I want to begin today with 2 statements that will sort of shape everything else I want to say. And the first statement is this: Easter is a subjective experience. Easter is a subjective experience. What else could it be? Now, I grew up probably like many of you being told Easter was an objective experience. And if we want to define those, like objective means not biased or influenced by a personal viewpoint. It's a thing that happened. If you'd been there outside the empty tomb with a camcorder, you would have caught it. The stone would have rolled away. Jesus would have come out. There would have been bright lights, maybe some fog, I don't know. And it would have caught the whole thing, right? I don't think that we have access to that. I think Easter is a subjective experience. Subjective means it's grounded in your experience. It's grounded in the way you see the world. The lens through which you see the world helps determine what you believe, what you think, and what your experience actually is. And we could spend days, weeks, months, years, eons arguing and debating about whether or not at the first Easter it was an objective experience that some of these folks had, that it could have been caught on camcorder, or it was a subjective experience that happened within them. We could spend there are really good cases to be made on both sides of that discussion and debate. Here's the problem. How many of you have that videotape? How many of you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that their great-grandmother saw that videotape? Right? It doesn't exist. So whatever Easter was in the beginning, for us today, it is a subjective experience. We have to decide what Easter means for us. We have to decide what we're going to do with Easter. We have to decide if, like in the Gospel of John, when they race to the tomb and they peer in and they see the strips of cloth folded, that we have to decide, what does this mean? That this tomb is empty and that this Jesus is absent. What does it mean for us? 20 years ago, when my faith started shifting and deconstructing, and I was wrestling with all these sorts of things, like could a video camera have recorded Easter and that kind of stuff, there was this hymn in the Baptist church world I grew up with that anytime I would hear it, I would immediately have this sort of condescending, ridiculous response to it. Let me give you some of the lyrics to the hymn. I serve a risen Savior. I'm not going to sing it. Everybody calm down. Donnie on the keys, let's go. I serve a risen Savior, he's in the world today. I know that he is living, whatever men may say. I see his hand of mercy, I hear his voice of cheer, and just the time I need him, he's always near. He lives, there's a parenthesis there, and I want you to have the full effect. He lives, Christ Jesus lives today. He walks with me and talks with me along life's narrow way. He lives, salvation to impart. You ask me how I know he lives? That's right. He lives within my heart. There was a period of time when I looked at that and said, how ridiculous to believe something like that. He lives within your heart. Prove it. I need evidence that proves he lives within you. I need to see an empty tomb. I need to see some sort of, you need to have a logical explanation for how this can possibly be true. He lives within my heart. It's so mushy. There's no there. It's not a thing. 20 years later, I look at it and go, oh yeah, what else could it be? Like, what else could it be? I mean, what was the experience of these first Jesus followers? What does Mary say when she comes away from the tomb? I have seen the Lord, and I believe her. What do these first disciples experience? They come away with this, I have seen Jesus. And whatever the experience was, it was so transformative that it took people who just a minute ago were running for their lives and afraid and cowering, and it turns them into people who are willing to proclaim a message that gets them in big, big trouble with the powers that be. You have to account for that, right? Whatever this experience was, it happened within them, and it changed them in such a dramatic way that it transformed fear into courage, and it altered the trajectory of their lives and of human history. I used to think it was ridiculous to say, well, how do I know Jesus lives? Well, because he lives in my heart. He lives in my life. I've experienced him in meaningful ways. I used to think that was nonsense, and now I've come to believe that's all there is. That's the way we access the Easter moment, is through our own experience. And then the second thing I want to say is, I think Easter is a political event. Easter is a political event. And I know there are going to be critics who hear that and say, look, man, can you leave politics alone for one Sunday, especially Easter? I brought my parents. Like, is there a way you could just avoid it 1 week? And I'm like, look, here's the problem. I wish I could. I get tired of talking about some of this stuff. But here's the thing. I think Easter is a political event. Here's why I can't not say it. Rome had legally and publicly executed Jesus of Nazareth as a representative of an alternative kingdom. They executed Jesus as someone who was advocating for a way of being in the world that did not align with Roman values. If we think about the cross as a referendum on Jesus' policies, like where you go in the ballot box and you check yes or no, or maybe a George Strait song from the 90s, and you, middle-aged people, you got it. You got that. When Rome nailed Jesus to the cross, their answer to Jesus' vision was an emphatic no way. It was a rejection of Jesus. It was a rejection of his policy. It was a rejection of the way he sought to run the world. It was essentially saying your vision does not align with Roman values. Therefore, your vision has no place in the Roman world. And on Easter, God vetoed Rome's no. God overrides Rome's rejection of Jesus. And on Easter, God announces over Jesus an emphatic yes. This is the vision. This is the way. This is the way to be human. This is the way to create human flourishing. This is the way to see all human beings as being valuable and meaningful. This is a way of transforming the world into a place where everybody has enough, where nobody goes hungry, where no one's excluded, where no one's left out. This is the way to change the world. On Easter, God says yes to Jesus, even though Rome said no. And you have to believe that when those first Jesus followers started going around the Roman Empire and saying, you executed Jesus, but God raised Jesus from the dead, they did not hear that as a religious claim. They heard that as a political claim. Who runs the world? Caesar. Whoever did it, do you want credit? Because I want you to have it. Was it you? Oh. I'm just trying to think where to go now. It would not be Easter if we didn't mention Beyonce. I think we should just say that on the front end, like, either I didn't say that at 9 o'clock or it just went, who was in charge of the world? Caesar! Because Beyonce allows it, would be the correct answer to that. Caesar runs the world. Caesar runs the world. Caesar decides who lives and who dies. That's Caesar's job. He is Lord. The job wasn't open. They weren't taking applications for who wants to be Lord next. The job was filled. And so you go around announcing that Caesar made a decision about this guy, and the reality is that Caesar is not big and bad enough. He's supposed to run the world, and he can't even keep a Jewish peasant dead? That's the guy in charge? It's a political claim. Listen to these words from Philippians 2. This is a letter from Paul written in the mid-50s. And most scholars think that embedded in this letter, Paul has included an early Jesus follower hymn that they created to express their faith in Jesus. And here's what Paul, he introduces it with a little line, and then he quotes the hymn. Let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus. He's essentially inviting us, hey, think about things this way. Who, though he existed in the form of God, did not regard equality with God as something to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking the form of a slave, assuming human likeness, and being found in appearance as a human, he humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. Therefore, God exalted him even more highly and gave him a name that is above every other name, so that at the name given to Jesus, every knee should bend in heaven and earth and under the earth, and every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Do you see the political nature through this lens? Do you see how that hymn is not just a feel-good Christian hymn, but it is a statement of politics? Who should be in charge of the world? Caesar or Jesus? Whose vision leads to human flourishing? Caesar's or Jesus? Whose vision pulls people who have been excluded close and gives them their rightful space at the table. Caesar's or Jesus? When Christians gathered in the first century, they just weren't singing repetitive choruses over and over again about going to heaven when they die. They were dramatically, radically saying the world needs different leadership, and we've got the guy. And by raising Jesus up, by exalting Jesus, as the language of Philippians 2, God has cast his vote and his lot with Jesus of Nazareth, not with Caesar, then, now, or ever. Are you with me? So, those two things. Easter is subjective moment. Easter is a political moment. And I just want to say a few things that I think Easter means. First, I think Easter says something about God. And it's something that, for those of us in more progressive spaces, might make us a little uncomfortable. And that is this: God takes sides. God takes sides. And I often talk to people like, why does God have to take sides? That just feels so regressive and so binary. Why does God have to take sides? Here's why. If there are people who are poor, oppressed, abused, marginalized, and mistreated, and God does not side with them, then God is a monster. And it doesn't mean that God is going to just torture the oppressors. I think God's ultimate dream for humanity is transformation of everybody. That the oppressed would go free, and that the oppressors would realize the error of their ways and would experience a deep heart change and would make reparations for the way they have oppressed and harmed other people. Because sorry is only halfway. You have to repair. But I think God takes sides. I think Easter means when God says on Easter, I'm siding with Jesus, God is taking sides forever. God is saying, this is where you'll find me. In the ancient world and today, we have lived in a world where might makes right, haven't we? The way you get to determine who has the ability to govern and lead is who has the most money, who has the most power, who can convince the most people they're harming to vote for them. And when we do that, we just assume that's how it works. The ancient world would have said, the people would have said, the gods put us in charge. Caesar would have said, who put me in charge? The gods put me in charge. Jupiter put me in charge. I'm here because the gods appointed me. Pharaoh would have said, the gods put me in charge. Today, we still say, well, God put me in charge. Right? How many of you have ever been to a church where you've had church leaders say to you, you have to do what I say because God put me in charge? And so no matter how horrible and anti-Christ, what I'm going to tell you is, you have to accept it because I'm in charge, because God put me in charge, because God knows better than you. We've had this sense that power, having it, means you deserve it. That having power gives you the right to do whatever you want with it. And I think what Easter is, by raising up Jesus, by vindicating Jesus, by siding with Jesus, it means that God has sided with all victims everywhere for all time. You will never find God on the side of a victimizer and oppressor going, yeah, more of that. But you'll always find God standing against them saying, let my people go. God sides with the victims of gun violence, not with the powerful supermajority that tries to silence the voices of people calling for change. God stands with two courageous, brilliant men of color who have been expelled from the Tennessee State House. By white Christian nationalist leaders who don't deserve their seats. God sides with those whose rights are being trampled and lives are being threatened by those who peddle fear and engage in violence. God sides with everyone who has been run over in the name of progress, been beaten up to prevent progress, or gaslit and blamed for suffering they didn't cause or ask for. You will always find God there. God hovers around tombs. God hangs out in places that we have written off as places of death, where nothing new and nothing good and nothing life-giving can come from. That's what Easter means. Easter means when we have given up, when we think there is no, when the opposition is too great, when the fear too large, and the work needed to be done just seems insurmountable, that's where you'll find the divine. Hovering around tombs saying, just wait. Just wait. We're getting started. Just wait. Just wait. I think Easter also says something about Jesus. Easter means that Jesus isn't just a part of the past, but he's part of the present. Well, for me as a Christian, I'll say this. There have been times in my life where I have sensed a familiar reality that I cannot put words to. And the only word I have for it is Jesus, because that is the language I've been given. Christianity is my mother tongue. That is the tradition through which I see the world. I think Jesus is not just a person of the past. And I think Jesus becomes a person of the present when I love the language Paul uses in 1 Corinthians 12. He says, we are the body of Christ. Y'all the body, y'all. And he doesn't say, it's all y'all. Like there's a technical Greek thing going on there, which is not you all. It's like all y'all are the body of Christ. And everybody's a part of it. And as you show up in the world, you embody this Jesus who was executed by Rome and raised up by God. You embody Jesus when you love, when you give, when you serve, when you show up in healing, transformative ways in the world. You are the body of Jesus. So why in the world are we debating on what happened to his body after his death? We know exactly where it is today. It is you. It's me, it's us, it's we. That's where you'll find Jesus. I think Easter means that Jesus is vindicated. It's God saying, yeah, actually he was right. Actually, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. That's true. If you embrace violence, if you embrace hate, I mean, this is what the cross does. It exposes the worst of humanity. And God vindicates Jesus. I think it means Jesus lives, and I think it means Jesus is Lord. For Christians to say Jesus is Lord, what it means is that we are saying that this vision for the world is where the world needs to go. We're not calling for some of us aren't calling for a theocracy. We're calling for a world where everybody can be who they are and celebrate the tradition they celebrate, but a world where human flourishing and not the almighty dollar is what determines what we do as a species. We're concerned for our children and the future they have on this planet or don't have. For their flourishing becomes the compass that guides us. That's what we mean. I think Easter also says something about us. I think what it means is that what starts with Jesus doesn't stop with Jesus. And look, I don't think, most of what I was told my entire life is that Easter was about the afterlife. Easter means Jesus went to heaven when he died, and you can too. Right? I don't think Easter is about the afterlife. I think Easter is actually about being raised up and being transformed to partner with God in the work of making everything new right here, right now, in this life. Do you know where I've seen Easter moments in the last couple weeks? I've seen Easter moments when a brand new generation of kids have decided if their grandparents won't do it, and if their parents won't do it, get out of the way because they're going to do it. They are sick and tired of standing by tombs when resurrection is possible. They are tired of being told this is just how it is, and we're not going to do anything about it. I see resurrection all over that. I see resurrection in people who are choosing not to allow fear, because y'all, fear exists. We just have it. It's real. What we often tell our kids, this feels like it happens a lot before we're about to pull a tooth, which is a lot what this feels like, is that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward even when you have fear. If you find the person who's not afraid of anything, I would just avoid, because good Lord knows what you're going to get involved in. It may not be good, right? But we have a generation of young people, which is the thing I used to think people would say when they were getting old. They would call kids young people. We have a generation of young people who are showing up, who are demanding change. And I think even with the events of this week, as awful and nasty and terrible as they were, those Good Friday moments are not the final moments. And even as you look at this state and you go, my God, how? I still think, Good Friday, my God, how? And yet Sunday came. And my hope for this state and in our country is that people of faith would stop siding with Caesar and start siding with Jesus. that people of Christian faith would put down their swords, especially their semi-automatic ones, and that they would begin the work of bringing about human flourishing. That we would decide that Jesus is right, not just because he gets some of us to our preferred afterlife destination. What you need is a realtor, not Jesus. But that he actually has a plan and vision for how the world could be better. A more whole place of flourishing for all people. And I think Easter says something about everything, actually. So in John 20, there's a story where Mary Magdalene comes to the tomb on Easter morning, and the stone's been moved, and she looks in, and Jesus isn't there, and she walks away weeping because she, in her mind, insult has been added to injury. Not only has her dear beloved teacher been killed publicly, humiliatingly, brutally by Rome, they have now, somebody's come and stolen the body. And she just wanted to come pay final respects and give him a proper burial. And then there's this beautiful moment where Jesus shows up and she doesn't. He does this all the time after the resurrection in so many gospel stories. It's just like Jesus loitering and not saying who he is. But it's not creepy. It comes across like as care, right? Like I don't want to drop this on you all at once because it could get real wild real quick. So Jesus stands there and Mary looks at him and he asks her, "Woman, why are you crying?" And Mary, and there's this little comma, and we were told by the writer, thinking he was the gardener, Mary says to him, they've moved my teacher's body and I don't know where they've placed him. Thinking he was the gardener. See, in John, Jesus is buried in a garden tomb. In John, there are 7 signs that lead up to Jesus' death. And then there's an 8th sign, which is the beginning of a brand new week. John begins in the beginning, and then in John 20, it begins, it starts over. In the beginning, Jesus, Mary thinks he's the gardener, and y'all, she was right. In John's story, Jesus is the gardener of a brand new creation. He is the gardener that's tending and caring for where this all could go. But he doesn't stick around. He actually says to his followers, I've got this thing going, and I want you to take it over. Every time somebody gives us a plant at my house, I feel bad for the plant. I'm going to forget it exists. It's not long for this world. Jesus had far more courage than I to say to a group of people, my blood, sweat, and tears are quite literally a part of this, and now I've got it going, and I'm going to get out of the way, and you're going to do a much better job than I would anyway. And he hands it over to them. What a vote of confidence in humanity that Jesus is willing to say, I've got this thing going, and I trust you to steward it well. We could actually make debates that Jesus' judgment wasn't so hot, looking at 2,000 years of Christian history, and yet, throughout 2,000 ugly years of Christian history, there have been moments and people of brightness and beauty and hope who have stood up and said, we've gotten this all wrong. We've turned this thing into a version of empire, and it was never supposed to be empire. We've turned this thing into a capitalist venture, and it was never supposed to be a capitalist venture. We've turned this thing into a way to abuse and harm people, and it was supposed to be about liberation, healing, and freedom. We've forgotten the way, and they have called us back time and time again, risking their livelihoods, risking their lives. They have called us back again and again to the vision of Jesus, thinking he was the gardener, and she was right. He was beginning a new creation. You know the thing about new creation is that all the old bad creation, the broken, the hurt, the pain, all the stuff doesn't just go away, does it? I mean, do you ever look at the world and just think, could we just get rid of all the bad stuff and just immediately bring in all the good stuff? That's just not how it works. This is an interesting time of year for you to pay attention to what's going on around you in creation, because what you'll begin to notice is here and there, we're starting to see these little sprouts pop up through the soil. Soil that was hard and frozen and lifeless just a month ago is now we're beginning to see signs of life. And if you just kind of go about your life, you come back in 2 weeks and suddenly that sign of life is bigger. And then you go about your life and come back in another couple of weeks and suddenly you're dealing with even more. That's how new creation works. It doesn't just dominate. It spreads slowly from person to person, from life to life, from vision to vision, and suddenly you're dealing with something formidable and beautiful that can change everything. We were on vacation some last week, and we saw a tree that they told us was like 800 years old or something ridiculous like that. And I was just thinking, so 800 years ago, somebody would walk by and would have saw the little sapling and gone, nah, no big deal. And 800 years later, it still stands. But it has grown. It has taken time. It has not been a flash in the pan. It has not been a sprint. It has been a marathon for that tree to still exist. That is new creation. That's what we're being invited into. I feel sometimes the overwhelming, like, we just got to change it all now. And I get so frustrated when I see our youth showing up and being told there's nothing that can be done. Old creation does not go out quietly. It doesn't. But I believe deeply in my bones that the ways of hate are not the future of our species. What we are experiencing in this country and around the world right now with the rise of fascism, with the rise of white Christian nationalism, is not the path to the future. It is the last gasp of a past that knows its time is up. And as we tend the sprouts of new creation in this moment, what we are ensuring is that as this grows and blossoms and changes, that as this recedes, something life-giving, healing, and that leads to human flourishing is ready to lead the way forward. Are you with me? Frederick Buechner said this, resurrection means that the worst thing is never the last thing. The worst thing is never the last thing. What that means to me, I think, is we should keep showing up to the tombs. We should keep showing up to the places where we think there is no sign of life, there is no hope, there is no possibility. This is just how it is. We should keep showing up to those tombs. Because God before has brought about surprises at tombs. The worst thing is not the last thing. I know there's some of you in this room and online right now, and you are here, and being here is an absolute feat of courage for you. Because you have been so harmed by the religion that was started in Jesus' name. And I am deeply sorry. And yet you're still hovering around this tomb called Christianity, because perhaps you're hoping that there may be some sign of life and flourishing and hope. There are some of you who are here today and you're carrying around deep pain, and it feels like this is it. This is like I can carry nothing else. There's nothing else. The last thing is never the worst thing. The worst thing is never the last thing. And perhaps today you've come to a place where there will be people who would long to carry those things with you so that you're not carrying them alone. Perhaps the invitation to us this Easter is just hang out around the tomb. Just join Jesus in some undercover loitering to just see what happens. And when we begin to get those little signs of life, may we nurture them, care for them, and may we do everything we can to make sure that that is the future that has the last say. Human flourishing for all of God's children. Are you with me? Let's pray. God, for this Jesus, executed by Rome, raised up by you, we are grateful. For this Jesus who, throughout life, death, and beyond, has continued to meet us in the places we are, to inspire and encourage us to remain, to be hopeful. It's going to be real hard not to start preaching again after that. For this Jesus, we are grateful. And God, for any person in this space right now who is hurting, alone, who feels like they have been handed the last thing and it is the worst thing possible, may they know that around them today they have Jesus embodied through other human lives, that they are not alone, that they are seen, they are loved, they are celebrated, they are affirmed, they can be home, they can be safe, they can be exactly who they've been made to be. And for that, we are also grateful. And we give thanks in the name of this risen Jesus. And everybody said,
I won't just survive. Oh, you will see me thrive. Can write my story. I'm beyond the archetype. I won't just conform, no matter how you shake my core. 'Cause my roots, they run deeper.
So little faith,
Don't doubt it, don't doubt it.
victory is in my veins,
I know it, I know it.
and I will not negotiate.
I'll fight it, I'll fight it. I will transform. 'Cause when the fire's at my feet again, and the vultures all start circling, the whispering, you're out of time, but still I rise. This is no mistake, no accident. When you think the final nail is in, think again. Don't be surprised, I will still rise. I must stay conscious through the madness and chaos. So I call on my angels, and they say,
So little faith,
don't doubt it, don't doubt it.
victory is in your veins,
You know it, you know it.
and you will not negotiate.
Just fight it, and be transformed. 'Cause when the fire's at my feet again, and the vultures all start circling, whispering, you're out of time, but still I rise. This is no mistake, no accident. When you think the final nail is in, think again. Don't be surprised, I will still rise. Don't doubt it, don't doubt it. Just fight it, just fight it. Don't be surprised, I will still rise.
It's good, Grace Point. We are so glad that you joined us today. We hope you have a great week. Have a good Easter, whatever you do after this. If you'll help us get some of these chairs and the tables and everything back. We love you. We're proud of you. Have a great week. Thanks for being with us.